Welcome to Management Minutes, where we discuss how to lead on purpose at the office, in your home, and in the world. I'm your host, Charles Evans. Over the past 2 weeks, we've discussed the leadership code and established 2 of the 5 key values. First was responsibility, which is the willingness to take ownership of the outcome. Second was courage, which is the willingness to cast a vision of the future and ask people to build it with you. This week, we arrive at the value that determines whether the vision survives or dies. Yes, this week we're going to be talking about discipline. Because a courageous vision without disciplined execution is just a speech, and speeches don't change organizations. Structures do. In your personal life, you've probably made some great plans. Maybe you planned on remodeling your kitchen, or losing 10 pounds, or reading 12 books in a year. More often than not, these plans, no matter how good they seemed at the time, didn't happen when or how they were supposed to. That's an example of where discipline was missing, and the same way it plays out in your personal life is the same way it plays out in the office. Discipline, in the context of the leadership code, is defined as the ability to adhere to the plan that develops out of the vision. This is where the intangible becomes tangible. The vision tells us where we're going. The plan tells us how we get there. But neither the vision nor the plan matters if the leader and the team lack the discipline to follow through. Discipline is not willpower. It is not grinding through exhaustion or muscling past obstacles with effort. That kind of discipline burns people out. Real discipline is an architecture. It is deliberate construction of systems, processes, and accountability that makes execution predictable rather than heroic. When execution depends on someone being extraordinary, it will eventually fail. This is what happens when we see our quote-unquote go-to people burn out and begin to miss important deadlines. Discipline matters because it is a bridge between aspiration and reality. For example, every organization has a strategic plan. Very few execute it. The difference is never about intelligence. It is never about the resources. It's about the ability to protect the most important work from the most urgent work, day after day, week after week, until the vision is no longer a promise on a whiteboard, but a reality in the world. In previous episodes, we've discussed the Eisenhower matrix, which tracks what is important and what is urgent and how to respond to both. When we think in terms of organizational discipline, we're talking about building systems that ensure the important happens regardless of the urgent. To do this effectively, we need people committed to maintaining a system over time and towards a defined, achievable outcome. One leadership framework that encapsulates discipline is the 4 disciplines of execution, commonly known as 4DX, and developed by Chris McChesney, Covey, and Jim Huling through their work with Covey. Their research spanned hundreds of organizations and thousands of teams, and it led to a single critical insight. The number one reason strategies fail is not bad strategy. It is the inability to execute strategy in the middle of what they called the whirlwind. Now, the whirlwind is the daily operational energy required to keep the organization running. That's your emails, that's your meetings, your client demands, staff issues, budget reviews. The whirlwind is urgent, it is constant, and it will consume every available hour if you let it. The visionary goal and the plan you built is important, but is rarely urgent. And in every organization, urgent beats important unless you build systems to protect it. 4DX provides that system through 4 disciplines. The first discipline is to focus on the wildly important goal, or the WIG. Instead of trying to execute on 10 priorities simultaneously, the leader identifies the 1 or 2 goals that will make the greatest difference and channels the team's energy there. Research showed that when teams focus on 2 or fewer critical goals, they achieve them 80% of the time. But when they try to juggle 4 to 10 goals, the success rate drops down to between 40 and 20%. The second discipline is to act on lead measures. Most organizations track lag measures, revenue, retention, client satisfaction, and these are important, but they are backward looking. They tell you what already happened. Lead measures are predictive behaviors that drive the lag measures. For example, Revenue is a lag measure. The number of client meetings per week is a lead measure. Discipline means focusing the team's daily energy on the lead measures, the behaviors that they can control right now, rather than obsessing over outcomes they can only influence indirectly or fractionally. The third discipline is to keep a compelling scoreboard. People play differently when they can see the score. 4DX found that when teams have a visible, simple scoreboard that shows whether they're winning or losing on their lead measures, engagement increases dramatically. The scoreboard creates accountability and motivation without the leader having to micromanage, because the data is visible to everyone. The fourth discipline is to create a cadence of accountability. This is the rhythm, a regular, reoccurring meeting where each team member makes commitments, reports on last meeting's commitments, and changes course based on the scoreboard. 4DX describes this as the discipline that brings the other three to life. Because without a regular rhythm of accountability, even the best goals and the best lead measures and the best scoreboards fade into the background of the whirlwind. Now, I'm certain that none of this sounds revolutionary to you. You may even be doing this in your work right now. But even if this is not new to you, ask yourself, how effective is your organization at doing the things I just talked about? More times than not, there's going to be room for improvement. And let's talk about how we get there. The first way discipline manifests itself in leadership is in the daily act of protecting the vision from the whirlwind. Now, the whirlwind is seductive, and it feels productive. Every email gets answered, every meeting is attended, every fire is extinguished, and it gives you the feeling that you are getting the work done. And you are working, but you may not be working on the things that are most important. The leader who spends 8 hours in the whirlwind and 0 hours advancing the strategic goal had a busy day, but not a productive one. One of the greatest wastes of time is the accomplishment of work that doesn't really make a difference. As a leader, you have to be very careful of how and to what your time is applied. Otherwise, you can find yourself being an all-star producer at minor league work. Discipline means building protected time into your calendar for the work that advances the vision. It means having the courage to say, this meeting is about the wildly important goal. It's not about operations. It means training your team to distinguish between the whirlwind and the wig so that both get the attention they deserve, but the wig is never starved by the whirlwind. The second way discipline manifests in the leader's ability to focus the team on what they can actually control, which are the lead measures, rather than allowing them to be overwhelmed by outcomes they can only influence. Most teams spend their energy watching the lag measures. They obsess over the quarterly numbers, the annual targets, the retention metrics, and when those numbers aren't moving, the team feels helpless because lag measures are the result of behaviors that have already happened. You can't change last quarter's revenue. You can only change the behaviors that will drive next quarter's revenue. When you begin to focus on what you can actually control, two important things happen, and they improve your performance and the performance of your team. One, you realize that you're not in control of nearly as much as you thought you were. This helps you to achieve better focus on what is most important. Two, you become much clearer on what habits are supporting or undermining your locus of control. In application, this means the leader identifies the 2 or 3 lead measures that have the highest predictive correlation with the goal and makes those the focus of the team's work. The lag measures still matter, but they are reviewed monthly or quarterly. The lead measures are reviewed bi-weekly. That makes all the difference in the world of attention. The third way to demonstrate organizational discipline is in the creation of scorecards that track progress and are available to all the important parties all the time. This is the place where documentation matters most. The group and the leader must commit to the few important leading measures that matter and make sure documentation is captured in a way that is easy to share across an agency when it is needed most. Most organizations refer to this as scorecards, and it's a standard practice of highly effective organizations. Remember, the magic is not in the tool, it's in the creation of the discipline structure that ensures that the tool is used. Of course, our expectation is that everyone will do what they are supposed to by a set deadline. But the chances of this happening are even higher when people know their progress, or lack thereof, is going to be documented. The fourth aspect of discipline is the one that makes everything else sustainable. building a rhythm of accountability that operates independently of the leader's personal energy. When you're in leadership, it's hard, but an important lesson to learn that you don't have as much time as you actually think you do. In the beginning, when you're an individual contributor, you have much more control and predictability in your schedule week to week. It's a rarity that something happens in your organization that can pull you from your task at hand. In the leadership role, the exact opposite is true. It's a rarity that something doesn't happen that pulls your attention and your time away from the work at hand. It's a reality and it's a part of the job. It's also why your structure of discipline must have built into it a rhythm of accountability that reinforces when you're not the one providing scrutiny. The cadence of accountability, the fourth discipline in 4DX, is the consistent scheduled meeting rhythm where each team member makes 2 or 3 commitments that advance the wildly important goal, report on last week's commitments, and reviews the scoreboard. This meeting is short and it's focused and it's consistent. Same time, same day, every week, without exception. The power of cadence is that it makes execution a habit rather than a heroic act. The team doesn't need the leader to generate enthusiasm every Monday morning. The system generates the momentum. Each person's commitment is visible to the group. The scoreboard shows whether the team is winning or losing, and the regularity of the rhythm means that no commitment goes unreviewed. In practice, this is the structure that allows the leader to step back without the execution falling apart. When the rhythm is established, the team holds itself accountable because the system makes the commitments visible, the progress measurable, and the gaps impossible to ignore. This is also why discipline follows courage in the leadership code. Courage casts the vision. Discipline builds a structure that turns that vision into a reality. Without discipline, the courageous vision remains a speech. With discipline, it becomes a scoreboard, and the team can see when they are winning. So let's bring this all together. Discipline is the third value in the leadership code. Responsibility gave us ownership, courage gave us the vision, discipline gives us the structure to execute. The 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX, developed by Chris McChesney, Sean Covey, and Jim Huling, provides the framework. Focus on the wildly important goal, or the WIG. Act on lead measures and focus the team on behaviors they can control. Keep a compelling scoreboard and create a cadence of accountability. Remember, discipline is not willpower. It is the architecture. It is the deliberate construction of systems that make execution predictable. And it is what separates the leader who had a great idea from the leader who built a great organization. That's all for now. Next week, we'll discuss humility. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And remember, leadership is a choice. And as always, lead on purpose. I'm Charles Evans, and this has been Management Minutes.